I have Charles O'Donnell with Brooklyn Bridge Ventures with me. Charles, thanks for being here.
No problem.
Tell me more about Brooklyn Bridge Ventures.
Brooklyn Bridge Ventures is the first venture capital fund located in Brooklyn, actually.
Wow.
So I'm very proud of that because I'm a Brooklyn native.
Yeah.
And I realized that I didn't have to move to the West Coast to become a VC. And so I got to work for some of the best East Coast funds. I've worked for Union Square Ventures, I've worked for First Round Capital, and just about 2 years ago now broke off on my own and raised a fund of my own. And we're 13 investments in and working very hard and having a great time.
And do you have a particular investment focus?
Basically early and in New York. I
Okay.
sort of feel that you can either focus on a sector or a geography, but it's really tough to do both. So I've decided to focus on the New York ecosystem and be part of the first 750 grand to go into a company, of which I'll do about $200,000 to $300,000 worth of that.
That's great. So as you do what could arguably be, depending on the business, a seed, or it might be an A, depending on the type of technology ideas, do you follow on with the company in
No, I
terms of
write one
investment?
check.
You're just one check?
One
you
check.
get them going?
A lot of work in the first year,
Yeah.
and then hand them off to somebody who's going to write a much bigger check and help them tackle different types of problems.
That's great. Give us an example of a company that you've invested in the portfolio that you're particularly kind of happy about.
Sure. I'm happy about a lot of the companies in the portfolio. I feel very fortunate, actually. Well, Canary just announced their next round financing this week, so they raised $10 million in a round that was led by Khosla Ventures.
Yes.
They are a connected home security device, and that was a company that I seeded, led the seed round, currently sit on the board of.
Wow.
And we did that before they did their Indiegogo pre-sale.
Right.
And they wound up setting the record on Indiegogo. They raised almost $2 million in revenues from pre-sales.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, thinking about Indiegogo, thinking about some of the crowdfunding platforms, whether they are, kind of philanthropic, gift exchange, we're obviously still waiting on the true equity exchange with the SEC rules. Do you think this is a good way to test the market, the customer market?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, particularly for hardware, being able to go up on an Indiegogo or any other platform not only proves your market, but really helps the financials of the company. So Canary is a good example where I didn't really have any doubts on the market. There's something like 90 million homes in the US that don't have security, and lots of people have ADT and don't turn it on. They essentially pay for that sign in the front lawn that says they have
Right.
ADT, but they can't remember their password or it keeps going off, right? And so, but from a financial standpoint, as an investor, I want to invest in the company and in the people at the company and the growth of the team. I'd rather not be a financer of manufacturing cash flows.
Right.
And so a site like Indiegogo enables the company to pull that customer cash flow forward and get better manufacturing terms, produce more product, and actually, with the example of Canary, they actually added features and upgraded certain aspects of the product because they got so many customers, they were able to do some more work on it. And so I'm investing financially in a way that looks kind of like a software company. We're putting money in and they're hiring developers and they're hiring a couple of business people, but the crowds essentially took care of the manufacturing financing aspect of it.
That's phenomenal. How do you find your deals in the New Jersey, New York area? Do they find you? Do you find them?
Yeah, so I guess New Jersey counts too, but they're sort of in the New York area. I haven't done a Jersey deal yet, but
I say New Jersey, forgive me. I'm just thinking, when I think bridges, I think of all the bridges coming out of Manhattan.
yeah, exactly. So I think part of it has to do with the network that I've built over the last sort of 10 plus years. I was early, I'm a native New Yorker,
Right.
and so I have personal networks that have lasted a long time. I've been blogging for 10 years now. I run an 8,000 person mailing list of events, weekly events that go on in the city, and I obviously write other things, and having that channel.
Right.
So a lot of it is being early to New York and having that wind at my back because, in 2004, just by way of data points, I was the 70th or 71st person to join the New York Tech Meetup. And there's now 36,000 people in that meetup.
Amazing.
So that's, is sort of a proxy for the growth of the market. And if you're early to that and you're the type of person that gets out there, you're going to get to know a lot of people over time. Those networks are going to compound, and I continue to try and build on that every day.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting as we look in the future and find out what really is the social physics of what's going on with the networks.
Oh, absolutely. And I think one thing that's really important is depth and quality. So, for example, over the last year or so, I've run about 16 or 17 group dinners where I'll take somebody from the community and in a neighborhood around New York, and I said, well, if you want to get to know more people from the tech community, I'll curate a dinner. You put them around your small New York City apartment. We'll squeeze 10 people around a table and an extra folding kiddie table, and I'll pay for the host. And we'll each divide up the money.
Right.
And it's been a great way to get to know people much better than a 300-person event where it's too noisy. You can't really talk about your values, your company, what you're interested in, how you got in, and the real people stories behind it. Well, it's 10 or 12 people at a dinner times 16 dinners. I mean, that's essentially like running a 200-person event.
Yes.
Where you actually get to know everybody around the table.
The difference is it's what we would call H to H, human to human,
Yes.
as opposed to that mass environment.
And as a one-person fund, it's very cost-effective because each dinner basically only costs me $50 to pay for the host.
This is great. This is fabulous. Again, the capital source being innovative in themselves.
Trying to. It's like lean VC, basically.
Lean VC. I love that term, lean VC. So entrepreneurs in New York versus entrepreneurs you see down here, any difference?
I think each ecosystem is different, but it really comes down to each individual entrepreneur. I certainly see differences among people in the Valley versus New York. The Valley is a much more mature ecosystem, so you're tending to get companies that are coming from other startups, have that startup DNA, are very savvy about the venture process and ecosystem. And I think with each newer startup ecosystem, you sort of get entrepreneurs that tend to be more diverse in the types of things they work on, because they tend to come out of industries. Not necessarily tech for tech's sake or, photo sharing for photo sharing's sake.
Right.
But, and then they're less savvy about the venture process. And so sometimes that means you get a better deal, or sometimes that means you're just doing a little more hand-holding about building trust with the entrepreneur, that, you're going to be looking out for the good of the company and trying to get incentives aligned and stuff like that. So, one good example is I invested in a company called LogCheck, and the entrepreneur about a year ago came to me and I said, well, how much are you raising? And he built some software for commercial maintenance staffs to do their rounds and collect data about the building. And he said $250,000. And that's pretty small for a venture round. And I said, well, how long is that going to last you? And he looked at me and he said, forever? And I said, well, if you're really building a serious company here, I appreciate your scrappiness.
Right.
But there's salespeople to hire and marketing people to hire, and there's a bigger opportunity that we should be funding, right? But this was just somebody who understood the problem intimately, but had never gone through a venture process before.
Right.
You don't find that in the Valley. Everybody's just very familiar with sort of standard sizes of rounds or whatever. Well, we just closed north of $1 million financing for that company.
That's great.
And that started with a conversation a year ago about raising just a couple $100,000.
But isn't that refreshing?
Oh, yeah.
That there's not that immediate, well, I have to have $10 million, otherwise I can't do anything. Because we have capital efficient businesses in a way today that we've never seen over time prior to this.
I'm in the process of talking to an entrepreneur whose company I love, and I am helping her figure out a plan to figure out if she needs venture capital. I think she does. I hope she winds up coming to me for that, but she's running that business regardless of whether or not anybody invests in it, and that is refreshing.
So Charles, you get hands-on, help these people. I'd hazard to say the value is not just the money you
I
bring
hope
to the
not,
table.
because in a place like New York, money's kind of a commodity. I mean, there's more than enough people with money that could write checks, probably at better prices. But ideally, I'm bringing help along with that. And just about every entrepreneur that I've met who's raised sort of friends and family money, and in New York, friends and family money could be a significant chunk of money,
Right.
has come back into, you know, that money didn't help me hire the engineers or the salespeople. That money didn't help me work out my co-founder problem. And so I think they're realizing that getting experienced money and money that has been around the block a few times that is a better route to go.
Absolutely. So there you have it. Charles O'Donnell with Brooklyn Bridge. Thank you, and thank you for
No problem.
sharing your wisdom
No problem
on
at all.
how these entrepreneurs should go get their money.
Thanks for the time.
Thank you.